is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Draft Day here on the Sports Outlet Show. My name's Joe Wagner. Brent, kick it around the horn. Everybody knows everybody, but let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, I'm excited. For a Giants fan like me, this is our Super Bowl draft day coming up. We don't have anything to look forward to during the actual season or any semblance of a postseason or Super Bowl run. We can't look forward to that at all. So, just this is always one of my favorite times of the year as a Giants fan.
Fair enough. Braden.
Yeah, super excited. This is also a great time of year. It's just fun to see the hopes going into the new season and who guys are taking and who can perform at the next level. It's very exciting to see.
As he sits there in his Eagles hat.
Yeah, we had a full conversation about this already, but I'll kick it to the Phoenix, Arizona boy himself. Brett Farrar, welcome back.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys having me back for another year. Excited to get going on this.
Yeah. Well, if you guys have, this is what, our third or fourth straight year doing this. It's been the fan favorite. It's been my personal favorite here. Obviously has grown a little bit throughout the years, but if you guys don't already know, welcome to the Sports Outlet Show mock draft. Super simple here. We don't want to take too much of your Tuesday evening, but draft day coming on Thursday. Braden, what do we do on draft day?
Traditionally we sit down, watch the movie Draft Day, get through that. Vontae Mack, no matter what. That's all I got to say. And then we watch the actual draft and hang out, eat some food, drink a couple brews, and it's a good time.
I love it. Well, we have 32 picks here for you guys. Brent mentioned it a little bit earlier, but for the first time since 2014, every single team has their original first round selection. If you guys remember in 2014, first round pick, Jadeveon Clowney for the Houston Texans. Same year that Blake Bortles went number 3, best player from that draft, Khalil Mack at number 5 to the, at the time, Oakland Raiders. It was a pretty poor draft for the 1 through 4s. If you look back to 2014, do I dare say this year may be similar? We'll have to take a peek and see what happens. Braden, you know how we rock and roll here. We're going to get you on the clock here, 2 minutes per pick. Let's give some analysis, guys, here while Braden's locking in because the Tennessee Titans are on the clock.
Yeah, well, I can start before Braden picks. It was announced today that the Titans are not trading out of this pick, so it is locked in. They know who they're selecting at this point, and I would find it hard to believe that it's anyone outside of Cam Ward. They're looking for their franchise guy. It's not going to be Will Levis to start the season. I think they're going Cam Ward here.
That's changed a little bit since Brett and I were natives to Norman, Oklahoma. Brett, what do you think?
I mean, I think he hit the nail right on the head. I think all the signs are pointing towards Cam Ward. Even they caught him lacking while he was playing Fortnite and who he thinks the best receivers are with throwing Treylon Burks into the conversation. So I think that's a telltale sign of where they're going to go with the pick. But let's see. It looks like it's in here, and let's see where they go.
Braden, you want to go ahead and kick us off here in Green Bay, Wisconsin?
Absolutely. It should be no surprise that with the first overall pick of the 2025 draft, the Tennessee Titans will be selecting Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. You guys hit the nail on the head. No surprise. Mentioning his top 5 receivers, including Calvin Ridley and Treylon Burks, it seems like he knows this is where he's going. And, we hope that it's a pretty weak quarterback class. We hope that he can live up to the expectations of a number 1 overall pick.
I would definitely agree. Cam Ward, that quarterback out of Miami, had a pretty sustainable year. While we're kicking it off here, Brett, we'll throw the Cleveland Browns on the clock for your 2 minutes. The Tennessee Titans are a team that need to fix everything. Obviously, Brett touching on Treylon Burks being a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL when possibly shouldn't even be a 5th-round pick currently if we were drafting again today. But definitely an interesting selection for sure. For the Tennessee Titans, is he the guy? Is he going to – I mean, he's got the name Cam, and last time somebody drafted Cam at number 1, I think that went pretty well.
It's true. Also, I do know that he name dropped Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears as his top running backs. So that'll tell you right there where they're going with their pick and where he thinks he's going at least. So interesting conversation there on Fortnite.
It's nobody wants the Fortnite chat leaked. That's all that matters. It looks like over there in Cleveland, Ohio, they're pretty quick to get their guy. Brett, give me the pick.
With the second overall pick in the 2025 draft, the Cleveland Browns select Travis Hunter, cornerback, wide receiver out of Colorado. I think with the potential that he offers with not only at the cornerback position, which the Browns do already have depth in with Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, I think he adds a whole nother level to their offense and just waiting out, potentially get him settled in the NFL. And then next year, maybe they find their quarterback going forward and get in a draft where there's better quarterback talent. So I think this is the year they locked up Myles Garrett for 4 more years this offseason. I know they were considering Abdul Carter here, but I think the firepower that Myles Garrett brings to this team, I think they want to unlock a whole new level of their offense with Jerry Jeudy and Travis Hunter on both sides of the ball there.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. We'll kick it over to Brent with the New York Giants while we chat a little more about Travis Hunter, the Heisman winner. Obviously, controversy between him and Ashton Genty, but that's come and gone since January. But definitely a great selection there with Hunter getting his number retired this past weekend at Folsom Field. With another name we may be talking about later on, possibly today, possibly another day. Brent, tell me a little bit. I know you've got the pick. Before you give us that, tell me a little bit more about the surrounding about the Giants quarterback room, about Shedeur Sanders, Russell Wilson, Tommy DeVito, and the main guy, famous Jameis.
Yeah. So I apologize if this is long-winded because this conversation has been on my mind for a long time now, what the Giants are going to do at number 3 overall. I think it's one of the biggest talking points in the draft right now. I think the draft really starts at number 3, where Cam Ward and Travis Hunter are locked in as the number 2 picks. Number 1 and number 2 picks. I'm intrigued with what the Giants are going to do because as a Giants fan, obviously I want a franchise quarterback here. You look at last year's class, Drake May was selected 3rd overall, but there's really not another quarterback in this class that I deem as worthy of a top 3 pick. You could argue Shedeur Sanders, but realistically, I think he ranks as more of the somewhere in the 20th to 25th range out of all prospects in the draft. So I could not justify taking him at 3. So the next scenario that goes through my head is maybe you look for a trade down, try to get kind of that package that the Panthers and Bears concocted up a few years ago. Sorry, Joe. But if you look at the teams below the Giants, I don't see any team potentially being that number 1 overall pick next year. And that's what I really would want if I was making a trade down. So option C is really to just stick and pick and take the blue chip player, which I believe is Abdul Carter. It really gives an identity to this team. You're linking up Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, and then Abdul Carter. It would be a force to be reckoned with. It would be a unit that teams would have to game plan around. And it's something that does get me pretty excited as a Giants fan, just not as excited as taking that franchise quarterback, which we desperately need.
That's not a long-winded answer. That's exactly what we're looking for. Definitely. I'd be shocked if that top 3 is not what we see on Thursday unless there's a trade like you were talking about. I'll let you guys talk a little bit more about the Giants pick. I'm going to go on the clock here with Colton Steele's New England Patriots, sponsored by Colton Steele. We'll see. Not sure if he's in the chat or not, actually, but I'll let you guys go ahead and keep going.
Yeah, Brent. I love Abdul Carter as a prospect. I think between him and Travis Hunter, they're the 1 and 2 players in this draft class. So I think that's a huge get for you. Like you said, with Thibodeau, he's been off and on the injuries that he's had. And looking into the future, you mentioned the quarterback class isn't great this year. We're looking at quarterbacks next year that could be better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's good to just get the best player available and keep building that team that's going to be around your future franchise quarterback. And the moves to get Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, they're not guys that are elite at this point in their careers, but they're serviceable. They can win a couple games here and there. So maybe you'll see some bright spots there.
I think one thing that I'm really curious to see how it pans out over the next couple of years. I know it's easy to make the comparison between Abdul Carter and Michael Parsons just because they came from the same college, but I feel like they're the same player. They bring the same aspect on defense, just that physicality up front. And I think I'm really interested to see where that kind of turns out for the both of them because Micah Parsons has proven himself.
Elements of Brent Pry here at Virginia Tech, Micah Parsons. So we need one of those. Pretty simple pick here. You guys went exactly the route I thought you were going to go here for the Patriots. Kind of like Brent was saying a little bit, kind of a stick and pick a little bit. Definitely need to fix up the offensive line. We're going to go with the big boy out of LSU, Will Campbell, offensive tackle. I think that's we need to protect Drake May. We need to make sure that our receivers are being able to get downfield this year. A lot of work needed on the New England Patriots front, but I think starting not necessarily a rebuild, but for the New England Patriots getting healthy, getting big up front, I think this is a great pick for them. With that, we'll go over to the Jaguars as we talk a little more about Will Campbell.
Yeah, I like the Will Campbell pick for the Patriots there. I mean, you nailed it. You really have to shore up that offensive line with your franchise quarterback behind it. I think Will Campbell does that. He's went up against really strong SEC pass rushers. So he's very battle tested, and I think he's ready for the NFL.
I think he just plays with a swagger and a confidence. Like he knows what it takes to just be that guy, how to be a leader for his team in his position. And so I think he'll bring a new side to the ball and help protect Jake May and give him the potential now that he has Stephon Diggs on the offensive side of the ball. He's got his receiver to throw to. Now he has the time because we saw he didn't have the time last year and still put up solid numbers.
Brent, we have a question in chat for you while Braden's getting the Jaguars up here. Ian says, when Arch doesn't come out next year, Giants are going to be staring down Carson Beck versus Shadur this year. If you were to take top QB this year versus next, who would you rather have?
I still think overall next year's class is going to be better, even if Arch doesn't come out. Obviously, as a Giants fan, I'm partial to the Manning family. I want Arch on the Giants. I would dream for that scenario. But you're still looking at quarterbacks like a potential Lenoris Sellers. Maybe he takes a step. Garrett Nussmeier, Nico. I butcher the last name every time, but it's like Iamaleva.
It's just I'm leaving.
I am leaving. Obviously, the controversy there going to UCLA. But I still like, and Drew Aller, who could have been in this quarterback class this year, I think he takes a step up next year as well. So I like those quarterbacks a lot better than a potential Shadur Sanders this year. I just don't see forcing the pick, for lack of a better word, at 3. I think that would be a desperation move to save Joe Shane's job. I think that's what that would be.
I personally think every quarterback's name you just said, between Nico, Sellers, Arch Manning, Drew Aller, if any single one of them draft eligible came in this year, would be the number 1 pick of this draft.
I think so too.
Nico might be the only stretch in there, but Lenoris easily, Arch Manning just by name. If he had played the whole past year and better than Quinn Ewers did, easy pick there as well. Braden, who do we have with the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, the Jags with number 5, they're going to take Mason Graham, defensive lineman out of Michigan. I think there's a lot of different places the Jags can go here, but at number 5, you really want a guy that that helps out your team in a way that some other players maybe can't. Trevor Lawrence is having some questions about him on the offensive side of the ball. I think there's a lot of different ways they could go here. They could look at O-line. They could look at an Ashton Genty maybe. I think this Mason Graham is pretty much the consensus of where they're going to go, but I do think they have options.
I agree. I think that Liam Cohen and the Jacksonville Jaguars have some room to play around. That's not the right head coach. Leave me alone. Wait, no, it is. He was the one that said Duval. Never mind.
Yeah.
There have been so many head coach changes this year that I was thinking about Ben Johnson at Chicago. But great pick for the Jaguars. We'll kick it over to Las Vegas. A big name talking about that QB2 with Shadur Sanders possibly, if you look at the graphic. First of all, shout out Alex Bagoon, for our amazing graphic. He's done the last 2 for us. We might have to hire him full time because I can't make graphics like that. So shout out to him. He does an incredible job. But anyways, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, another team. The first 5 picks seem pretty cut and dry. Honestly, the only difference I could see is Abdul going to the Browns and Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter would not be fair.
It would be sick. I do think they're going Travis Hunter. I know like a lot of the analysts, especially like Adam Schefter, who is the guy I listen to the most this time of year because he's locked in on every team. He says that they're pretty much guaranteed to take Travis Hunter. So I think that is the direction they're going. But you're right, Joe. Like the idea of Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter together, that would definitely be the top pass rushing duo in the league.
That is an AFC North nightmare.
Yes.
Yeah. The unproclaimed quarterback in Pittsburgh Pittsburgh quarterback to be named would fear for his life. Lamar Jackson might be the only one able to get away from him. And Joe Burrow and his horrible O-line, we might, yeah.
Yep. And back to the Mason Graham pick while we're waiting here. I mean, on a hefty list of like star defensive tackles in this class, Mason Graham is the best of the bunch. I think he's extremely agile. He's like 320 pounds. Would be a huge addition to not just the pass rush, but you're getting a run stuffer as well. I think he would just be huge to solidify the trenches there in Jacksonville. And I know we haven't talked about it yet, but this defensive line class in general is loaded. Yep. There's talent across the board with defensive linemen this year. Guys you can probably grab in like the 5th round. I'm thinking of like an Antoine Powell Ryland, my Hokie fans here. Like that, he would not be there in any other class. Nope. He would be like a 3rd round pick easily. So I just think this defensive line class is loaded.
I agree. It's stacked. Brett, let's send it over to Vegas. What you got for me?
The Las Vegas Raiders will be selecting, which should have been the Heisman, Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State. I think they're what Pete Carroll brings. I think he needs that running back like he had in his Seattle days with Marshawn Lynch, and I think Ashton Genty provides that for him. The Raiders actually had 2 1,000-yard receivers / tight ends last year with Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. And so I think their wide receivers are in a solid spot, and they still have the potential to sign a guy like Tyler Lockett, who has familiarity with his offense. And so I think that Ashton Genty just solidifies that from all over. They have Geno Smith, they would now have a running back, and then have their receivers as well. And then I think it just adds a whole nother level. They do have Chip Kelly on the offensive side of the ball too. So I think that brings a lot of ways that they can incorporate not only the college style, but that NFL style offense as well.
Scary.
I think like that like profile of an offense, maybe outside of like the Bears, I think would be great for Genty. Like having the tight end outlet and Brock Bowers, we all saw what he did last year. And then obviously bringing in Geno Smith and bringing in a guy like Ashton Genty, who is the best running back prospect we've seen in a long time. I think their offense could take a huge step forward if they make that selection.
Well, I mean, and we'll go ahead and put the Jets on the clock too. It's also that combination with Raheem Mostert, obviously somebody that's been in the league a little bit for the Las Vegas Raiders, somebody he can lean on, develop in, has a similar play style. Another big issue with the Raiders is in the wide receiver room. Jacoby Myers obviously being that first man, but I mean, Trey Tucker being the 2 and Kyle Phillips at the 3. I could see the Raiders trading up again into this round towards the back here, maybe even the middle, depending on their draft capital, what they're willing to give up, and going after Matthew Golden, going after Ted McMillan. There are a couple decent wide receivers outside of those two that we might get to, but definitely something to look at as well for Las Vegas. They need everything fixed, and they did well by getting Geno in the offseason for sure. We're about to have the pick in here for the New York Jets, who lost their quarterback this year, Braden.
They did indeed.
Disappeared.
You're about to pick one for him?
No, I'm talking about Fields. I don't know if that's the answer. I think that's more of a stopgap, but it is an intriguing signing. I'm curious to see what he does there.
They could do what's his name? Sam Darnold.
He was an option for them this offseason. Yep.
Brent, who you got?
I thought I texted it to you.
I'm saying announce it.
Oh. Sorry, boys. Not on top of my game. But I have Armand Membo, offensive tackle out of Mizzou. He's actually my favorite offensive lineman of this class. I even rank him ahead of Will Campbell, but obviously I don't think you can go wrong with either. Has extremely nimble feet, willingness to finish nasty blocks, also battle-tested at the SEC level. I think he profiles as more of a right tackle in the NFL, but I truly think that he can succeed at both right and left tackle. So I think the Jets, who desperately need offensive linemen, would be thrilled to get Armand Membo here.
I think that's a pretty good pick. I think it's a safe option for them, and they need offensive line as well. There are a lot of teams in this draft that need offensive line.
Need to protect that franchise quarterback, Justin Fields.
Stop.
I mean,
all right, we'll kick it over to the Panthers.
That's Joe's pick, right?
Oh, I thought a trade was brewing.
I think he's thinking about it. Man, I don't know. I feel like the Panthers could go in a lot of different spots here. Looks like there might be some trade talks between him and Braden. Don't know which team just yet.
Yeah.
But I think the Panthers could add a linebacker / edge in Jalen Walker. I think they could go corner Will Johnson, maybe grab one of those top 2 tight ends and Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland. I think they can go a lot of different directions here.
Yeah, I think with whoever if the Panthers do make their selection here, I think it's interesting in the fact that whatever guy they don't take, I feel like is going to be the one that falls. Like if Ted McMillan doesn't go here, I feel like he's going to be sliding down the draft board. If Will Johnson doesn't potentially go here, I think he could start to slide. I feel like the Panthers maybe have a little bit of power, but it looks like they have a guy that they want, and they feel like they can get him if they fall down the draft board a little bit.
Yeah, I know a guy like Ted McMillan is a guy that people have a lot of mixed feelings on in this draft. So I'm very interested to see where he goes come draft night. Anything materialize?
Oh,
Okay.
The Carolina Panthers are going to trade their pick back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll be taking pick 21, and we'll announce the trade details here shortly. They are finalized, but I'm typing something up.
the league office has to approve of them.
It's been approved. It just I can't type that fast.
Yeah, so since the Steelers are on the clock, I think it's pretty obvious what they're thinking here. I think they're going to go either Shadur Sanders or Jackson Dart. I think it could be either one of the two. I've heard a lot of analysts saying that a lot of teams have Dart very close to Sanders in their rankings. So I'm interested to see where they go here.
There's some craziness going on already. Back-to-back years for Joe trading his team's pick. Last year we were right. Let's see.
All the way to 21, I'm interested in the draft comp.
Braden, you want to go ahead and announce who the Pittsburgh Steelers have traded up to take at 8?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys were right thinking it's a quarterback. We are going to go with Shadur out of Colorado. I think the Steelers might be a little bit desperate. Their quarterback room is effectively nothing right now. So I think, to me, the only team that really is looking at a quarterback ahead of them is the Saints. So they wanted to jump up, get ahead of the Saints, and perhaps steal the quarterback away from them. I think it is Shadur at this point. I agree with you, Brent. I have heard that Jackson Dart is getting close on some boards to Shadur. But yeah, I just think Steelers are a little bit desperate for quarterback at this point since they lost everybody that they had last year. Their quarterbacks weren't exactly good last year, so they're trying to get somebody for the future and hope Shadur can work out for them.
Yeah, the Steelers and the Saints in particular are very intriguing for me in the first round because they've kind of put themselves in a situation where they need to draft quarterbacks somewhere in the draft and preferably early because the Steelers, their starter is Mason Rudolph right now, and the Saints, with Derek Carr's injury, which no one knows about apparently, it could be like Spencer Rattler as the starter, which obviously is not ideal going into the season. So I'm very interested to see what they do in the first round, the Steelers and the Saints.
Yeah, I think if they both opt no on a quarterback, or if the Saints opt no and the Steelers don't trade up, he could fall all the way down to 22 when the Steelers pick there.
Yep.
They may even have to pass on him there and see if he falls in the second round because he's been sliding. He's been sliding on boards.
I personally think Shadur Sanders could fall pretty far. I can't remember the last time we had a quarterback who was debatably the number one overall prospect with Cam Ward and Abdul Carter for months, at least weeks, probably a couple months. I've never seen a quarterback host a private workout for a specific team after draft day, prospect day, all those other things. So Shadur must know he's falling at least a little bit. So I do think this is a move the Steelers can make. Draft value for you guys. Everybody's waiting for it. We'll put it up before the Saints. The Carolina Panthers are going to receive pick 21, as well as wide receiver George Pickens, a 2026 first-round pick, and a 2027 seventh in exchange for pick number 8 and a 2026 fourth-rounder. With DK Metcalf going to the Pittsburgh Steelers and Carolina in desperate need of a playmaker at wideout, seem to make sense on both styles. Braden, I'll let you give the Steelers input.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, the Steelers are desperate for a quarterback at this point. I think this is one of two ways they can go. They can wait and see if either Shadur or Jackson falls down to them. But at this point, I think they could make up a move and try to cut off the only other team that might be looking in the Saints.
And Braden, as the host of the Saints, we'll throw them on the clock. Brent and Brett, what do we think about the trade value between those two teams?
I think the trade value's correct. I think it would take a lot to move up that far in the draft. So obviously, as a Panthers fan, I would be thrilled with that. As a Steelers fan, I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of out on Shadur. I think that BYU game at the end of the year really exposed some of his limitations. He's not the best athlete. Really, the only thing he has going for him is his accuracy, which a lot of it was manufactured stuff at the line of scrimmage. I just don't know if that kind of stuff is going to work in the NFL. So that's why I didn't take Shadur at 3. So I'm interested to see what he does at the next level.
Awesome. We're going to have the pick in here in just a second. Braden, before you announce this pick here, give me some insight. If this trade doesn't happen, is New Orleans picking Shadur, and how's the game plan shifted?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think New Orleans is a little bit off Shadur as well, so I think the Steelers may have overreacted in this scenario if they do jump up and take Shadur. I don't think the Saints want him. I think the Saints have other holes on the roster. I think they have a lot of holes on the roster that they need to fill. So this could be almost any position on the board at this point for the Saints. They could use a guy everywhere.
All right. And who is this guy that's going to help him out?
This guy is going to be cornerback Jahdae Barron out of Texas. I have him over Will Johnson, and not just because of the injury concern. I think Jahdae Barron is an absolute athlete. I think he's a stud. And he's healthier than Will Johnson, as mentioned. So he's going to be the first corner coming off the board after Travis Hunter. Like I said, they have holes everywhere. Cornerback is one that they can use the help in. But like I said, I can see them going O-line. I can see them going D-line. I can see them going quarterback. I can see them going receiver. So this guy's an athlete. This guy's a stud. They hope he works out very well for them in the next level.
Yeah, I like the pick too. Honestly, like I kind of didn't know what the Saints were doing. Obviously, the Marshawn Lattimore trade made sense with the Commanders. I think that made a lot of sense for them at the time. But they also didn't re-sign Paul Adebo. He went to the Giants this offseason, who was slated to be their cornerback 1. So cornerback has become a really desperate need for the Saints, where obviously beforehand it was a position of strength. So like you said, Braden, they have a need at a ton of positions, but I think corner is definitely one they need to prioritize.
Yeah, there are a couple holes. I know that the Saints are dead last right now in the Super Bowl winning odds. So a lot of work to do, but as a NFC South fan, I'm not too upset about it.
And as you mentioned, Brent, as it is a position in need, I think they go with somebody safe without the injury concerns that Will Johnson does have, even though he may have the hype.
Yep, I could see it. And man, if the Saints really do have the lowest odds to win the Super Bowl, maybe the Giants should consider a trade back with them. Try to get that first round pick next year if they're willing to do it. I guess I didn't really think about that too much, but I don't know. It's draft night is going to be fun. I think there's going to be a lot of juicy stuff happening.
It always is one of the best days of the year. Looks like the Chicago Bears and first-year coach Ben Johnson are ready to rock and roll. Brett, what's going on at Soldier Field?
Ben Johnson is ready to get those boys going. I mean, we saw in the offseason already them load up on the offensive line. So I think they flip here and go to the defensive side. And the Chicago Bears will be taking Mike Green, edge rusher out of Marshall. I think he proved himself a lot in the workouts, and then in the pre-draft process. He was starting to fly up draft boards, just destroying NFL talent or future NFL talent in those combines after the college season. I think he provides a lot of potential for the Bears and their defense, because they seem to be loaded on the offensive side of the ball. And I think Ben Johnson is going to open up tons of new things with Rome Odunze this next year. And so I think they need to focus a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, and Ben Johnson will take care of the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. Mike Green's a name as we Brent, I'll put the Niners on the board for you. It's a name we've heard a lot, especially since the combine. When you're being compared to Will Anderson Jr., who just 2 years ago was the number 2 overall pick, you're gonna start getting some question marks. So, great comparison for Mike Green. Obviously, coming from the Sun Belt could factor in a little bit, but again, Ben Johnson, a great coach, obviously an offensive-minded coordinator. But the Bears, I mean, had all the hype around them last year. So far, yes, Brent mentioned it a little bit earlier with the trade for Bryce Young. But Caleb Williams hasn't shown it yet either, but can't blame a kid for being sacked 60-plus times with the worst O-line in football. But my rebuttal to that is Bryce Young was also sacked 60-plus times. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Mike Green has been a guy that has been flying up draft boards. And I know the clip was surfacing from the Senior Bowl where he absolutely destroyed. I forget who the exact prospect was. Let me see if I can find him real quick. Oh, Josh Connerly from Oregon, who is also projected to be a first-round pick, if not early second. So that clip was the clip from the Senior Bowl. Obviously, a great player from Marshall, previously played at UVA. So a little bit of a smaller school guy, but I think a guy that teams might want to take a chance on.
No, I would agree. I think it's a great pick. Brent, interesting, rare scenario here for the San Francisco 49ers picking this low. Big opportunity for a team that is still loaded on offense and defense. Who is this team who debatably had one of the most underwhelming years in football last year? Who are they putting on the gridiron and improving even more?
Yeah, right here, I think the 49ers would be thrilled to go with a guy like Will Johnson. I think they have the luxury of waiting a little bit if he's not quite ready, if that injury is still plaguing him a little bit. But I think he is my favorite corner of this class, and that's even over the likes of Travis Hunter. Obviously, Hunter goes higher because he has elite upside on both sides of the ball, whereas Will Johnson only plays corner. But this guy was absolutely shut down in 2023 before having an injury-plagued season last year. I think the 49ers would be thrilled to select him at number 11.
First of all, I think it's a great pick. Before I pick here for the Cowboys, give my 2 cents. First of all, the Niners being in a position to make a pick like this is, first of all, crazy with the roster that they already have. Second of all, Will Johnson was debatably going into this past football season a top 3 pick.
Yep.
Until the injury, until not having the greatest year. But if you looked at early 2025 mock drafts, it was Will Johnson's name was, if not top 3, number 1 every time. So continue to watch how he develops with that injury concern. But Brent, you hit it on the money. It's not going to be too big of a problem. They can take a step back and wait for him to heal, unlike most teams that are picking in the top 12.
And here we go with the Cowboys pick here. I'm intrigued with what they will do. Obviously, being a huge rival of the Giants, don't want them getting any good players. My worst nightmare here is if somehow Ashton Jeanty is still on the board and the Cowboys select him. I would just be so upset. I don't think that'll happen. I think he'll easily be a top 10 lock. So we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, I'm looking at 2 wide receivers here, either Tet or Matthew Golden maybe, that they're looking at. I could also see them taking even a Marion Hampton. He's projected pretty high. He's almost a guaranteed first-round pick, which is – I don't know if I see it for Hampton, but if they're looking for a running back, they could probably use one. So he's there. Looking at my board, I'm not sure what else they would be looking at here.
I know Jalen Walker is a guy I have pretty high. I'm not sure how much of a need there is for an edge player, but he's my highest rated player on the board still.
Me too. I think he's an absolute stud.
All right, we got the pick in here. I'm going to give some context behind it. The Cowboys are picking one of two people, and you guys mentioned both of those people. I don't think there's any chance that Genty falls this far. So rest assured, Brent, unless Dallas and Jerry Jones coughs up some money, which he does know how to do. So just be wary of that. But there's a position need here to go hand in hand with CeeDee Lamb. I've seen one name more than most. I understand the 40 time. I understand the electricity, the speed, the quickness, but I don't think he complements CeeDee Lamb, and I think it's a role that Jalen Tolbert already fills. I think the Cowboys would be stupid not to take the Arizona Wildcat and Tet McMillan. He's still the best wide receiver in this class. I understand what an incredible combine Matt Golden had, but this man – over the past 2 years has the most receiving yards in FBS. Like it's an easy decision. Most yards, most catches, touchdown machine. Imagine putting your best guy on CeeDee Lamb and you have Tet McMillan coming, same height, same build, same speed. I think they complement each other way too well. I think Brent, you're going to hate this part. There are 18 other running backs the Cowboys could pick that could be as serviceable as Ashton Genty in this draft. So it's a running back market. I don't blame the Raiders for picking there early, but something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think Tet is probably the second best receiver in this class by most NFL analysts. I do question the effort a little bit. It looked like he might have taken some plays off here and there this season, but I don't think Arizona was quite as good as they were the year before, so that makes a little bit of sense. And then there was a video surfacing where he said he doesn't like watching film and he doesn't like football all that much, which concerns me a little bit, but I think that was filmed like in his freshman season, so I'm not putting too much stock into that, but those are just little concerns I have of him.
We're going to go ahead and put the Dolphins on the clock here. Hey, who are you picking?
Looks like we got some trade action here.
Some more trades. I got maybe a trade cooking later, but not anything right now.
I'm interested to see where the Dolphins go here. Obviously, took a step back a little bit last year with Tua's injury. They really need to figure out what they're going to do with that, because I think the concussion thing is really just going to be – it's going to be a pain for the Dolphins for years to come until they get their next guy, which kind of sucks because I really liked Tua there for a little bit until the injury concerns. So I'm interested to see where they go here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, and I think if you do have Tua go down, I mean, the only guy you got on your roster right now is Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess he had the potential a few years back, but is he really a guy that'll take it long term for you? But I mean, we've heard some stuff over the offseason that the Dolphins could even move on from Tyreek Hill. And is that something that they do during the draft, maybe leading up to draft day even? I think there's plenty of teams out there that would take Tyreek Hill, even though he does have some questionable off the field activities with way too many whats. But I think that'll be interesting to see if they stick with Tua and they stick with Tyreek going forward, or what moves they make kind of towards their future.
Yeah, I think Tyreek is becoming a little bit of a head case, which sucks because of obviously the talent there. I am a little concerned with Tyreek, obviously getting into his older years, because the speed was what made Tyreek. Mm-hmm. And as he gets older, obviously the speed he's gonna lose a step or two here and there. So yeah, I'm interested to see where they go there. But I think back to the quarterback thing, I think the Dolphins are a sneaky team to add like a backup quarterback, maybe round 3, round 4, maybe a Kyle McCord, Will Howard. I could totally see them going in that direction.
Yeah, in case they do pan out, they give them some NFL reps, and then They thought that same thing a few years back with Skylar Thompson
Yep.
out of K-State. And I mean, he didn't really do much when he had the chance to. So,
Boys, we're getting wild here. We're getting wild.
What do we got cooking?
Look at that. Look at that. What are they doing? What are they doing down there in Carolina? Down and back up.
They must have saw a guy they liked and didn't think would get there at 21.
And I can imagine who that would be.
I have a sneaky feeling it might be Jalen Walker.
Yeah, as you said earlier, he's an absolute stud. I have him as a top 5 player in this class. I think he's an absolute beast. He can play pretty much anywhere in that front 7.
Yep.
He's a stud.
Because honestly, like, I know Jalen Walker has been talked about as the Panthers pick. What's the original pick, Joe? Is it 6, 7?
8. I think they're 8. Yeah.
So I know Jalen Walker is a prospect that's talked heavily to the Panthers at 8. So obviously, getting them at a little bit of a discount at 13, I don't think that would hurt too much.
Oh, for sure. I can give you some of the trade details here. No players involved in this trade. It's just straight picks. And there you go. I think it makes sense. We're moving up 8 spots in the teams, basically, from 13 to 21 to 13. So I think this is a good spot for Miami from their perspective. If I didn't trade down, it was going to be Jalen Walker for Miami. I think they have other needs that they need to address, but it wouldn't hurt having a guy like Jalen Walker. So they're going to trade down and hope they can find one of their guys down there that are projected to go around there.
Yep, I can totally see it. And Brett and I were talking earlier while you guys were making the trade details. I could see, and now that they have an extra second and extra third, I could totally see them adding a backup quarterback, someone that could learn under Tua a little bit. And obviously with Tua's concussion concerns, I could totally see them grabbing another quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now with this trade in there. Maybe like a Jalen Milroe if he falls into the third, someone like him.
Well, we went a full wraparound way of it, assuming the Panthers do not find a trade partner at 8, and I know they are listening in to a lot, Dan Morgan and Dave Canales is. It's pretty simple. This is the guy we're going to pick at 8. And getting him at 13, Jalen Walker, obviously the edge from Georgia. He's going to be in Panther Carolina blue one way or another. But I could totally see this something Dan Morgan's aggressive trading back. And then if Jalen Walker falls an additional 5 picks and they're trading a second and a third rounder, but they're walking out with Jalen Walker 5 picks back and a Steelers first round pick. As a Panthers fan, I'd sprint around the room.
Yeah.
I'd be so hype if you could form a masterclass like that. Obviously, not likely to happen, but we'll put the Colts here on the clock. But so I hit this last year. If this happens this year, I need to go buy a lottery ticket. So we'll put the Colts up there. That's all my craziness for the day. Maybe. Got plenty cooking.
I feel like a lot of with the Colts here, I feel like there's a lot of people just focusing on that Tyler Warren selection here. I feel like he just makes sense for what the Colts are looking for and run more year with Anthony Richardson to see if he really is their future. And then if that doesn't pan out, they have that option to maybe move on from him in the next year or so. And I think that just gives him another weapon kind of going forward. So I think the Colts are potentially looking for that Tyler Warren. I think he just adds elements on both running the ball and catching the ball and could be like more of a Taysom Hill kind of option guy if the Colts would like
I totally agree. I mean, I've seen plenty of mocks where Tyler Warren goes earlier and they're content with Colston Loveland at that tight end position. So they're probably ecstatic that Tyler Warren has fallen down to 14 for him.
Brett?
Yeah, the pick is in, and the Colts will select Tyler Warren. I think at number 14, like you said, Braden, I think they'd be thrilled to draft him here. Tyler Warren, obviously a huge presence as a pass catcher for Penn State last year. There were games where he completely dominated. I think there was a game where he had like 5 touchdowns in one game. So I think he's the best pass catching tight end in this class. My biggest problem with Warren is as a blocker. But if you have Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods, those big guys as your tight end blockers, I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. So I think the Colts would be thrilled to have Tyler Warren here.
I think it's an incredible pick. They've needed that tight end present for years. We'll keep it rolling here with the Falcons, which I know is me, but Tyler Warren's going to be an incredible player for them. Obviously, they have a very diverse skill set with the Colts in the wide receiver room with Pierce, Pittman, Downs. Definitely a good trio to have. Keep the defense up, and who knows, maybe one healthy year of Anthony Richardson. That's not happening.
Well, hey, you know who's waiting in the wings if he goes down? Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones. They paid a lot of money.
Again, I forget what team he was on.
Yeah, let's not talk about that part. I do have a jersey hanging up in my closet of Daniel Jones. I'm not proud of it, but I do break it out on occasion when I want to feel some pain. So yeah, that was an experience. Now we have the
that was a class where the quarterback talent was also pretty lackluster, similar to this class. So hopefully they learn from that mistake and, like we were talking about earlier, avoid that quarterback here in this first round.
Very similar. Because if you remember, Kyler Murray was the 101 of that class, and then it was just a whole bunch of trash after. And I don't think Cam Ward is quite the prospect Kyler Murray was, but I do think he's tiers ahead of the next guy.
Agreed.
Interesting pick here for the Atlanta Falcons. Understand a couple concerns for this player, but I actually heard an analyst say today that some teams are completely putting this player off the board, but others have him very high, including myself, just based off pure football talent. The edge out of Tennessee, James Pierce, I think he's going to be an absolute dynamic player for the Falcons, and they need somebody coming off the edge. Atlanta has struggled in the frontline battles for quite a while. I'm trying to remember the guy's name who had like 6 sacks in one game, but
Tack McKinley or Tack McKinstry, whatever it was. Yeah,
whatever his name was. Definitely a pick I could see the Falcons going with. I think it's a safe option for knowing they're getting a dynamite player. James Pierce is an absolute menace. He'll be great for an NFL franchise. Just got to stay healthy. But Brett, what you've been waiting for? Go!
Yeah. The James Pierce pick is a little interesting. I mean, people are saying that he might have the worst character concerns of the draft, which they don't really elaborate on what those character concerns might be. So I'm a little confused as to what that is. But I'm looking on Google now. Here's some bullet points that it has. Alleged worst character report, uncoachable and distracted, potential for a draft bust.
Wow.
So, I don't know what's going on there. He was good at Tennessee, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's very talented. And I think the Falcons have shown in their recent years that they're not afraid to go against the grain. Like Joe was saying, he's off a lot of guys' boards because of these character concerns. But 2 years ago, drafting Bijan Robinson when Tyler Algier just came off a 1,000-yard season. Last year, drafting Michael Penix when they had Kirk Cousins. So they're not afraid to make some picks that people aren't expecting. So I think this is on brand for the Falcons.
You're totally right with that. I mean, I don't know what their GM was doing last year, picking Penix. I still don't think it worked out. Like, I know a lot of people say like it worked out. Michael Penix is good, but we really only saw him play a few games, and he wasn't like spectacular or anything. And obviously, the Kirk Cousins thing did not work out either. So, I mean, I would have the Falcons GM on the hot seat personally, but That's just me.
All right.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Brett traded with himself. The Los Angeles Chargers traded up with the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals now hold pick 22. Trade details to come. The pick is about to come in here. Brett, give me a little bit of analysis here. I'll put the details up here in a second, but tell me why the Chargers wanted to move up so bad.
I think it goes more so on the Cardinals. I think their GM's getting comfortable now. He's in his going into his third year, Monty Ozenfort, and so I think he needs to build up some draft capital this year because we just have a pick in every round except the 6th. So this is his chance to move down and find a guy that add some depth to what they do have. There's not like a guy that's standing out. Like I said earlier, there is that Will Johnson guy that can maybe fall that the Cardinals could pick up here, but I think they are comfortable moving back a little bit in the first round, adding some more draft capital to be in a good spot later in the draft. And I think Jim Harbaugh is ready to make a splash. He realizes how talented the Chiefs are. And so adding some more offensive firepower, which he already did in the offseason with signing Mekhi Becton on the offensive line. So they're stacked with Joe Alt, Mekhi Becton, and Rashawn Slater. And they have Najee Harris now, which will be interesting to see him not in the Steelers jersey. But with this pick, they're going to stay on the offensive side of the ball and draft one of his former players from Michigan, Colston Loveland, tight end.
I really like that pick. If I'm the Chargers, he was my 10th rated player on the board, and I think I said it earlier, but as a do it all tight end, I would actually have Colston Loveland ranked ahead of Tyler Warren, just because he does bring that nasty presence as a blocker, and he can work in the receiving game as well. So I think he gives you just a little bit more than Tyler Warren does. Like I said, I would be thrilled if I was the Chargers and got him at 16.
I was before Miami or Carolina called Miami, I was thinking about giving Brett a call and seeing if the Chargers wanted to trade up for a tight end, maybe ahead of the Colts, because they were thinking tight end for sure. But I love the Harbaugh Michigan connection there, so I think that's a great pick as well.
I do as well, and we'll throw the Bengals are on the clock. Go ahead, Braden. But I am gonna throw this up here. Brett, describe the trade details between Arizona and LA.
Yes, the Cardinals are moving back to that 22nd pick. They'll add some depth with a third rounder, and then also the Chargers have 4 6-round picks, and so they feel comfortable giving up one to move up 6 spots, and then we'll add a 5th rounder back in for the deal. So I think it just adds, like I detailed, a little bit more depth for the Cardinals in getting to more players later on in the draft. And they're fine with the players that will be available at 22.
And I think that trade actually works good with the Cardinals' needs. I mean, any team could use more offensive linemen, defensive linemen. I feel like Cardinals are definitely one of those teams in particular, and that's where this class is loaded, offensive line and defensive line. And as we hinted to a little bit earlier, also the running back group is extremely deep. If they wanted to add a running back with that extra 3rd-round pick, I could totally see it happening and maybe even eclipsing James Conner this year, because that, like I said, that's how good I think this running back class is.
I would agree. Awesome. Braden, who are the Bengals picking?
Bengals are going to grab edge Michael Williams out of Georgia. As Brent was saying, this defensive line class is absolutely stoked, absolutely stacked. Georgia has some pretty good guys on the board here. So the Bengals are going to go and grab one. We mentioned earlier something about their offensive line play, but Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Brown, they seem to do pretty well despite the O-line play. And their defense was just absolutely horrendous last year. They allowed so many points. If their defense was any better, they probably wouldn't make the playoffs. So they really want to grab somebody that can complement Trey Hendrickson if he ends up staying on the team and putting some pressure on the quarterback so that the defense has a little bit more room to work. And hopefully they win some more games and sneak back into the playoffs.
That is the hope for every team, Braden. Let's win some more games. unless you're the Eagles. Then I don't know what you do.
Fair enough.
Let's kick it over to Seattle. The Seattle Seahawks at 18 with Brett Farrar are on the clock.
Back up again.
Guys, former head coach Pete Carroll, also a professor.
Yeah,
Just in case you didn't know.
USC.
But Las Vegas Raiders head coach. I'm really curious for this one. Go ahead, Brent.
I'm interested in the Seahawks too. Like I just found it weird to move off Geno and then get Sam Darnold. I just don't like. How does that move the needle? I just don't understand that. And obviously Geno is cheaper too, so I really question what they're doing. I'll be honest.
Well, my analysis on this is you lost Geno Smith, you lost Tyler
DK.
Lockett, you lost DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba's like, where'd everybody go? like seriously. And then you basically get a demotion from Geno Smith, who knows the system. The fans love him. They wrote him off. He didn't write back. The whole thing hasn't been good since then, but it's fine. Elite name, though. Elite name, great hockey player, even better dog than Geno. But you really are wondering what's happening here because Seattle's been known to loyalty for wide receivers for such a long time that you almost wonder, are they going to draft the next Doug Baldwin? Are they going to draft the next Tyler Lockett? When you think of Seattle, I mean, the only people there still is Kenneth Walker, injury prone, and Zach Charbonnet, who in my opinion could be a running back one in any organization. He's that dynamic. We got the pick in here with 12 seconds to go. It almost went to the Buccaneers.
I think there's so many ways that the Seahawks can go just because they've had so much just flip, like you guys have mentioned with the wide receiver, with their quarterback. And so I think I think they have their bases covered a little bit with Cooper Kupp coming in at that wide receiver position. I know there's some potential that the Seahawks could go wide receiver here. But with Cooper Kupp, I think he fills that hole that they moved on from. And with the 18th pick, the Seattle Seahawks will be going with offensive guard out of Alabama, Tyler Booker. I think they need some depth up front just to give Sam Darnold some protection. I think he had that with the Minnesota Vikings and was comfortable. I think if you can get him comfortable, he'll be decent. He'll provide when he needs to, show up in the big moments. I think he has that after this past season with Minnesota and the wins that they were able to bring. So I think getting him some protection and he'll find his guys.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick, especially with a new quarterback in the system with Sam Darnold. Getting a guard to help with the run game with Walker and Charbonnet is also helpful too, especially because Kenneth Walker is a ground and pound guy. I think Tyler Booker is a fantastic pick. We'll shift it over to the Buccaneers and put them on the clock real quick. Just kind of a little overview, everybody. Some players that are maybe falling a little bit here on draft day so far. Derek Harmon from Oregon, still yet to have his name announced. But other than that, seems like we're pretty hitting on the head with ESPN rankings for the most part so far.
And I feel like that's how the NFL draft should be. Teams should not be drafting based on need, especially at these positions like offensive line, defensive line. You see good teams, I hate saying this, Braden, like the Eagles, who draft offensive linemen and defensive linemen when they don't need them. They're just the best players available. You see players slip to the Eagles all the time, and they just snatch them up. I just think that's how the draft should be. You should not force a need if you don't need to.
I agree. You saw the New England Patriots do that in Cole Strange literally like 2 years ago, and he's not good at all. So don't pick players out of Chattanooga, everybody. Brent, what do we got?
If there's a great player in your need that falls to you, that's great. Go and scoop him up. But if there's a guy you're not sold on and you're just trying to force it because your team is struggling in that position, it doesn't work out too often.
Yep, exactly. And along those same lines, I have the pick here as the Buccaneers. Not too big of a need for them, but I'm going to be drafting offensive tackle Kelvin Banks out of Texas, who people have said at the next level he could slot in as potentially a guard as well. So he has that tackle guard versatility. Obviously, a huge piece there for Texas last year. But the current, like I said, the current Buccaneers depth chart as far as the line goes is Tristan Wirfs, Ben Bredesen, Graham Barton, who they drafted last year, Cody Malk, and Luke Godecki. All 5 of those guys are probably starters.
Yep.
But I think Kelvin Banks adds a huge depth piece for them, could work as a swing tackle, which swing tackle is a really important position in the NFL. I personally like that pick for the Buccaneers. He was next on my big board.
Especially, I hate this pick as a Panthers fan because I don't want to see this. But with Kelvin Banks there and how great that offensive line already is, the problem is Bucky Irving behind a great O-line can be a top 5 running back next year, especially fantasy football valued. But stop giving Rashad White the ball, first of all. Let Bucky literally get the ball 500 times and watch him cook. Mm-hmm. So, and then obviously Mike Evans is still going to score 10 touchdowns and have 1,000 yards, but that's for another day.
I think I completely agree with your Buccaneers loading up on offensive line. I think the Bears could be another team that does that. They loaded up in the offseason, but they could take a guy like if Will Campbell falls to them or Kelvin Banks is there when they're selecting at 10. Could be a guy that they just add that depth, take the younger guys, let them develop, especially with Ben Johnson's system and what he maybe has a package where Kelvin Banks is in catching a touchdown. You never know with Ben Johnson. So I think the Buccaneers are a team to load up. And I think the Bears could be another potential team that we could see add some depth to their offensive line, which they already have loaded. So.
Yeah, I think he slid quite a bit, honestly, as a tackle, because our last offensive lineman before that was Tyler Booker, but before that was Membu back at pick 7. So we kind of saw a run with no offensive lineman going there, and maybe we're starting another run here because there's some teams that need some more linemen coming up here. So I think that pick with a team that already has a solid offensive line makes some GMs mad that are coming down the board a little bit. So the Buccaneers should be pretty happy about that.
I've learned one thing. The pick is in here for the Denver Broncos. I've learned one thing about Sean Payton and the Broncos organization is 2 things that we didn't think was going to happen last year. Number 1, they picked Bo Nix way too early. It worked out. It seemed like it worked out for them. We saw so many quarterbacks go in the top 10. It was egregious. Number 2, the reason Bo Nix went so high is because if you look at the past couple years, throw Jerry Jeudy and Marvin Mims in this conversation, the Denver Broncos organization is heavy on the NFL Combine. The Denver Broncos are picking a running back, and every single mock draft has a Ryan Hampton. The Denver Broncos, in my opinion, if they go based off of what they continue to do, are going to pick running back Byshal Tutin out of Virginia Tech. I think this is a stretch and a jump, but his name has popped up. This is no Virginia Tech bias. I'm putting that aside. I want that known. I'm not going to throw bias into a mock draft. His name has popped up in first-round picks. He ran the fastest 40 of a running back at the Combine. He was electrifying all week. He's gotten bigger. He's 5'11". He's put on muscle. He fits the system so well, too. He can go great with Bo Nix. You can get the B2B like in sales. Bo and Byshal, we'll get the advertisement, the hats. I'll buy it first day. I do think they may pick Hampton. I think that's the smart pick, the safe pick, the easy pick. But they didn't do that with Bo Nix last year when they had several defensive needs, several receiver needs, and several offensive tackle needs. I could see Sean Payton biting here for a player like Tutin. And again, like I said, it's half a dozen in running back country. Can we really predict besides Genty who's going next?
I mean, there's always a surprise on draft day. We saw that with the Raiders a few years ago with Alex Leatherwood, who a lot of teams had him as like a 4th rounder and they picked him in the 1st. I mean, surprises happen all the time. I do think the Broncos, like They might be able to wait a little bit if they really want Tootin. They might be able to wait until the third round, possibly. But I mean, if you want to go and get your guy, you go and get your guy. So I'm not going to fault you too much on that. But would be very interesting to see that unfold.
It'd be hype.
I'd love to see him be a first rounder as a Hokie fan.
Our only shot at it, that's for sure. Maybe Dorian Strong.
I would have to ask Carson how he would feel about that. I know he's been Carson has been pushing, obviously Broncos fan. He's been pushing for Travion Henderson as the running back that he wants.
There's another name in the ringer.
very explosive back. I could see them adding a guy like that here. We already mentioned Omarion Hampton. So I think the Broncos will draft a running back early. It's just a matter of maybe first or second round.
Yeah, I think that will too. Braden, quick pick.
Oh, yeah. So Miami made the trade with Carolina. If they didn't make that trade, they were going to take Jalen Walker, the player that the Panthers did take. Offensive line is a position in need after Teron Armstead retired. So Miami's going to pick offensive tackle Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. I think he's pretty versatile. I think he can move. Miami is licking their chops a little bit at some of the defensive players left on the board. But they made this trade down to get their offensive lineman that they knew they was going to be here. And Josh Simmons is a great player. So they're going sort of against what we talked about earlier with Tampa Bay. Offensive line is a position in need. There's a lot of guys they like on their board that are still there. They're going to still rock with Josh Simmons, though, and hope it works out.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Simmons, that was a guy that was being talked about in the class of Will Campbell and Armand Membo. But he got hurt last year, suffered a torn patellar tendon midway through last season. Might not be ready for OTAs, but I think most people have been saying that he'll be ready by training camp. And if that's true, I really think a team is going to get a huge discount on Josh Simmons because he is really good. And I think he profiles as an immediate starter in the NFL if healthy.
I totally agree.
We'll kick over to the Cardinals, who are on the clock again. Looking at what ESPN has for running backs, Baishal Tutin is ranked at 13 with a grade of 64. I just disagree with that. He's the best player in the draft.
NFL teams are hating on our man.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought maybe you could get him later, but I do think Tutin will be awesome in the NFL, whether as a complimentary piece or as a featured role. But like I said, this class as a whole, like there's going to be a ton of starters coming from this class, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'll go down the list here of who Tutin is better than. He's not better than Genty. He can compete with Hampton. He's better than Henderson. He's better than Judkins. He's better than Caleb Johnson. He's better. I'm sorry, but he's better than Cam Scatabo. He's better than Dylan Sampson. Devin Neal is a sneaky guy. He's better than DJ Giddens. He's better than Jordan James. Better than RJ Harvey. Better than Damian Martinez.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think
might be a little bit of Mookie bias there, but
I think he's just a complete running back. I think he's got speed. I think he's got power. Yeah. Maybe some injury concerns because he got banged up a little bit last year, but our O-line was terrible, so that probably played some impact into that. But yeah, if he can stay healthy, he's a complete back.
Yeah, we said it. I mean, he was hurt last year, and he still put up the numbers that he did. So I'm intrigued to see what he does in the NFL because I do think he will be a key piece of a team, whether as a complement or as a starter.
100%.
They hated on Khalil Herbert too. That's all I'll say.
What team is he on now? Bengals?
He's on the Bengals. Yep. Brett, what do we got?
We ready for the pick?
I'm ready.
From left field, Ohio State has joined the NFL with how much talent they're sending out to Arizona. The Arizona Cardinals will be selecting wide receiver Mecca Egbuka out of Ohio State, loading up at that position. I was between two players, and then Braden made it easy to decide which one. But taking Josh Simmons, the Cardinals actually hired Josh Simmons, or the offensive line coach from Ohio State. So he already knew Paris Johnson. I think makes sense with Josh Simmons, but with him falling off the board, Egbuka offers that chemistry with Marvin Harrison, just kind of challenging him in practice and elevating his game, but also gives Cardinals good depth at that position. I don't really, even though I like Michael Wilson, I don't think he is wide receiver 2 talent. I think he is wide receiver 3 talent. And then you still have Greg Dortch on the roster that adds some big play opportunities. But I think Egbuka offers just some stability for Kyler Murray. And then, Marvin Harrison, I think, is going to make that jump this next year. And then Trey McBride has proven himself this past year, even though it took him a while to get a touchdown. I think the Cardinals are elevating their offensive side of the ball, and with their coordinator, kind of developing a bunch of new opportunities since our head coach is more defensive focused. So I think this is the way the Cardinals go, and I like being able to trade down into this spot.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it, and we'll throw the Packers up there. Still missing a Matthew Golden out of Texas, so I definitely am intrigued, but like the pick because I feel like NFL execs and scouts sometimes, and I could be way in left field on this one, forget about team chemistry and how important that is out of college from picking former college teammates. Because if you look at quarterback, wide receiver pairings, wide out pairings, running back, quarterback pairings, Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne have worked well together. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are the best combo in the NFL, quite possibly. Another great Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith cook all the time. Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle. I could keep going on and on and on with those combos, but it's just natural at that point. So Egbuka and Marvin Harrison not having the year that you would want out of a pick 4 person last year, but hey, he knows how to run routes beside him. So
yeah, I'll just say it I was looking at Egbuka on my big board here, and I would have picked him here for the Packers if he was available. I actually like Egbuka as my second best wide receiver in the class. That's ahead of Tet McMillan, just behind Travis Hunter. I think Egbuka is going to be really, really solid. He might not give you like that elite upside because I think he's going to play in the slot. But people said the same thing about Ladd McConkey last year. They were hating on Ladd McConkey. He fell in the draft, and look at him on the Chargers. He's a stud. I think Egbuka could bring that, and I would be thrilled with that selection.
It's funny Joe says that Marvin Harrison had a not great year when he still had 8 touchdowns. I know he wasn't a 1,000-yard guy, but I
terrible.
Trey McBride was the same way with being like in the low touchdown numbers, like 1 touchdown and like 700 yards, and then popped off after his second season. So I think Marvin Harrison has the potential to do that, and with just spacing the field with Egbuka on the field with him as well.
We have Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker, Brett. I don't know what you want me to rebuttal with.
And then like Trey McBride too. Trey McBride is my favorite tight end in the NFL, ahead of Brock Bowers. I just think he is freaking awesome. I think he's gonna be the one on your team for years to come, even maybe over Marvin Harrison. And that's not to discount him. That's just to praise how good of a stud I think Trey McBride is.
Yeah.
Who we got in Green Bay? In Green Bay, who do we have in Green Bay?
The Green Bay Packers are going to be taking a prospect from another green team, Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. One of my favorite defensive tackles in this class. He's not a guy that's going to be like a primary sack guy for you, but he is wide, long, naturally powerful at the point of attack. I see him causing a lot of traffic jams at the line of scrimmage, really stopping the run. And with how teams have been prioritizing the run the past year, you look at the Eagles with Saquon Barkley, you look at the Packers with Josh Jacobs. I think Harmon will be a key piece for this team in stopping the run.
I think it's a great pick. I haven't seen a pick besides the Baishal Tuden one that's made my brain go, huh?
You made that pick.
What are you talking about? It says Baya Ryan Hampton. All right, we'll put the Minnesota Vikings on the clock here real quick.
Yeah, I don't know who the Vikings will be going here. I do see a lot of good defensive linemen still on the board. Possibly offensive I do see an offensive tackle. I still like Josh Connerly. Donovan Jackson is a good interior offensive lineman. I could see them going there. So will be interesting to see what they do.
I think even Malachi Starks covering over top with Harrison Smith. I think that would be a solid pairing as well. Something else to consider. I know people are kind of balancing Nick Eamon-Wari out of South Carolina. There hasn't been some popularity with him. He's kind of fallen a little bit. So I think Malachi Starks could also be an option because Harrison Smith is getting up there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Well, boys, for the third time in 4 picks, it is this from the OSU. It is going to be interior lineman Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. I think this is a no-brainer pick. I think this is. I'm just going to say what Brent said at the beginning. The Vikings have a lot of needs. This is technically a smaller one of their portion to protect, the legend J.J. McCarthy.
He'll need it. He's a rookie.
He'll need it because he can't even throw the ball. But anyways, he'll get somebody that he's used to seeing on the opposite side of the field and beating. So I'm not sure how he'll feel about that. But anyways, Donovan Jackson's an absolute dog. Somebody that's just a pick of how is he still here? Somebody they're going to pick up, somebody that's going to be a generational player for Team Skull. And honestly, it's pretty cut and dry for the Minnesota Vikings in this scenario. So hopefully JJ learns how to play quarterback.
You can never have too many offensive linemen on your team.
You can never have to.
Put
it in the scripture.
It's just facts.
It's facts. Braden, there is a man in this chat that knows the Houston Texans in and out. So you're going to disappoint him or excite him with this pick. But we'll see.
Here we go.
We'll see who he puts in as well. But we'll put you on the clock here for a minute.
As a Giants fan myself, I am not itching for that, Ian. I'm sorry to say. Actually, it's one of the things, like, coming into this draft as a Giants fan, I will be livid if we draft up into the first round for a quarterback. If you have a conviction on a quarterback, you take him at 3. You don't play games. You don't let teams maybe take the quarterback that you want ahead of you. I just don't like doing that. I know a lot of people have been talking about it. I don't like the Giants doing that.
I think it's interesting too, an comment that Ian made with Kelvin Banks falling. I could see them trading up for it. Like, he makes sense for what they need to. That'd be a solid pairing for sure.
The Texans are a team that need offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
They were bad last year, and they got rid of their best one, Laramie Tunsil. So, I mean, you try not to draft for need, but I could see them going offensive line here. But there's still some good ones on the board. So,
Braden, who are we taking?
We are going to go offensive line. We're going to go the tackle Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon. So that's 5 colleges in a row drafted. We saw that clip of him getting beat by Mike Green. That's 1 rep. Mike Green is a stud. So is Josh Connerly. He's going to be just fine in the league. He's a great player, protected Dylan Gabriel pretty well last year. I think he's an absolute stud, and I think he's going to be great.
Josh Connerly is a guy I'm hoping falls to the Giants in the second round. So I'm in on Connerly as well. Like you said, Braden, I think that that clip of Mike Green might tank his stock a little bit, but he is still awesome. One of the best tackles in the Big Ten last year, and even stopped Abdul Carter a little bit in their matchup. So I really like Josh Connerly for the Texans here.
We'll go ahead and kick it over to the other team in LA, the Los Angeles Rams, who had a surprisingly good year. but lost the leader faithful in Cooper Cup. That's sad. He's a Seahawk, isn't he?
He is. He is
Yes.
now.
I keep forgetting about that one. I know Devontae Adams went to the Rams, but I forget that Cooper Kupp went to the Seahawks.
Dude, there was so much moving around this season. It was like the college football transfer portal.
You mentioned the Raheem Mostert thing. I hadn't even heard that at all. Like, what team did you say was on the Raiders? I didn't hear that at all. I just completely.
Yeah, I missed that too. Yeah, with Cooper Kupp gone, do the Rams look receiver here? They got Puka Nacua as an absolute beast. Do they need a number 2?
Yeah, a couple guys on the board. Matthew Golden, I know we've mentioned him a lot.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry, but there's no way he's here at this point. There's no way.
I'm not a huge fan. I don't know why. I can't get into it. Maybe it's just because he's a Texas guy. I don't know. I really liked Luther Burden going into last year, but obviously fell off a cliff a little bit this year. But someone still might take that gamble in the first round.
Guys, going back to the Houston Texans, we have insider analysis of that he will be good to sit behind Cam Robinson for a year and freshen up his footwork and base on run blocking. So there you go. You made a good pick, Braden. Good job.
Thanks.
You've satisfied our best subscriber.
Appreciate you, Ian.
He's been very active in the chat, which we appreciate.
Trust me, if you came to a draft day with him, you would understand why. What a time to be alive. All right, let's see here. This one went down to the wire a little bit, Brett. What are we thinking here?
I mean, I think you guys were discussing it, what their offense is going to look like without Cooper Kupp. I think Puka Nacua is a solid number 1 receiver, and then Devontae Adams has been Devontae Adams, but he's kind of fallen off a little bit. And I think the Rams' specialty last year was their defense in the front 7. And I think they load up here with this pick, going with the linebacker out of Alabama, Jahad Campbell. I think he just bolsters up their front 7. I mean, they had 2 guys in as finalists for Rookie of the Year with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. And so I think if they're able to just bolster up right in the middle, they'll be able to just destroy people on the defensive side of the ball, and then be comfortable with Matthew Stafford throwing to Devontae and Puka Nacua. So I think with this pick, linebacker makes sense for their defense.
There you go.
Yeah, I love that. John Campbell's somebody I have pretty high on my board, so I think it's a good place to land for him. Like you said, that front 7's very strong, and that will only make it stronger for him.
I think it is important to note that we're here at pick 27 going for the Ravens with Brent picking it. We have one player, the name is Mike Green, not at a Power 4 school. NIL question mark.
You're going to see a lot of that with NIL. That's the sad truth. Because
Miami, Colorado, Penn State, LSU, Michigan, Boise, Mizzou, Colorado, Texas, Marshall, Michigan, Zona, Georgia, Penn State, Tennessee, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, Texas Tech, Virginia Tech, Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama.
Well, I guess is Boise? Boise's not.
They basically are.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, they made the playoffs. They're going to be competing for the playoffs because they're that top. A
generational talent, and Ashton Genty doesn't count.
I think there's really only one more guy on this board that I would consider taking in the first round that is not Power 5. Maybe we'll get to him later. We'll see what
I know which one you're talking about, Brady.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I'm in on him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know when you're ready for me to announce it, Joe.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah, so with the 27th pick the Ravens will be selecting Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Again, I mean, we're really hammering this point home, how loaded this defensive line class is, and Walter Nolan is a huge part of that. He's not going to blow you away with his physical traits, but he gains quick advantages with his explosiveness into contact. His ability to pressure the pocket creates 3-down upside, and he will be one of the top tackles drafted in a loaded defensive tackle class. And I feel like it's just a Ravens pick. Like they're always like a grab best player available type team. So I could totally see them doing this here.
We're going to go ahead and throw the Detroit Lions on the clock. A team, unfortunate ending for them.
Yeah, I think Walter Nolan is a great pick for the Ravens there. Shoring up that defense is huge for them. Their offense works pretty well with Lamar and Derek Henry and Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. They have a pretty solid foundation on the offense. They're just a really talented team overall, so it's kind of hard to miss here in terms of positional value. But watching Nolan's a beast. It would be scary to see him fall down there to the Ravens.
Yep.
We're going to double up here in Detroit. Understand that we have a great defensive presence already. Standing across the line from Brian Branch is going to be, Brett mentioned earlier, the safety out of Georgia, Malachi Starks. This defense is getting more dangerous. So definitely a pick I could see them making on my list here. I did have Josh Connerly Jr. and Michael Williams, obviously both gone already. Had to make an adjustment. Was looking at Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, but really think that with Aiden Hutchinson coming back, hopefully being healthy on that edge rush on the defensive tackle front as well, helping out a couple snaps, that this secondary is just going to get scarier. And it may become the no-fly zone of football if they keep ramping it up like this. So we'll see what they do, and we'll kick it over to the Cinderella Jaden Daniels run.
Yeah, with how good the Lions offense is, if you imagine a good Lions defense with that, it's definitely something to be scared about, especially with Aiden Hutchinson coming back this year. You just never know.
The Commanders are on the phone.
Yeah, their defense was it was so banged up last year. They suffered so many injuries, including the Hutchinson injury. And if they're getting somebody, even if Malachi, just having an extra guy who can be there and even be a depth piece if you need. I think he is a day one starter, but getting a guy that can stay healthy will really boost this team into the next level. They're already very, very good. So perhaps look at them to return to the NFC Championship game this year if their defense stays healthy.
They're just such a good team. You can't help but root for Dan Campbell.
It really is. It's good to see a good Lions team. It's fun to watch. It can be a little tough to watch a team get beat up over and over again. So it's fun to see when they're doing good.
You know, I need that energy for the Carolina Panthers.
I can make that happen.
No, you can't. Don't lie to me. It's gonna be terrible.
Just keep building. That's all you can do.
Just keep.
Jalen Walker's a good piece.
Yeah, we're picking Jalen Walker like it's happening.
I love that.
Dude, I'm not even kidding. Like, I understand our trade to trade back and trade back up. I really do think the trade back possibility is there. But if Dan Morgan straight up went and traded back and got the Steelers' first-round pick and George Pickens and then traded back up and didn't give up one of those pieces and got Jalen Walker, a first-rounder, and George Pickens, build the statue.
No, for sure. I think that's great. And it's happened before. Like crazy trade backs and then trade backs up have happened in the past. I can't recall a specific scenario, but I do remember it happening.
I'd be a fan of it. Trade to the who? How did this happen? Okay.
What's going on here?
They talked to the wrong GM, but it's fine. The Tennessee Titans are back on the clock.
Huh. Okay.
I honestly forgot I wasn't the Titans.
Okay.
Brent, you go ahead.
Oh,
There you go.
Brent, go ahead and pick the pick then.
Oh my God.
I do think this is a possible trade scenario the Titans could be looking at. Even though I'm not the Titans GM. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I like it.
I'm a fan.
But we've been talking about it. Matthew Golden's been sliding. That's going to be the pick here. Sorry, Joe. I forgot to text it to you.
I don't care.
Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas. You know, I think with the Cam Ward selection, you really want as many receiving options as you can possibly get if you're the Titans. And I know he thinks Calvin Ridley and Treylon Burks are some of the best in the league, but I don't think that's cutting it for the Titans. So they just want to make sure they get their guy, especially with the Bills and the Chiefs coming up. They want to make sure that they get that wide receiver they're really looking at.
So this is why the Titans are picking number 1 overall, because they have no idea who their GM is. We have random guys picking up the phone. It's like the John Dorsey prank every year where he calls GMs, and Brett decided he was going to do that to the New York Giants.
Brett called me and he said, I think the Titans might be looking to move up here. And I just like took his word for it. Like I know the Titans now. Ran with it. But I think, Brett, do you have the draft comp, Brett?
Yeah. They'll be sliding back the Commanders just to the beginning half of the second round, pick 3 in the second round. And then they'll add a 5th round pick because they do not have a 5th round pick. So they'll take the third pick in the 5th round as well, just to add more depth to what they are building.
That's as an Eagles fan, I don't like that too much. That's a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, the Commanders are lacking in picks just because of that. I mean, that Laramie Tunsil trade was huge for them. But now they don't have a ton of picks. So I could totally see them looking to move back and getting some more. But it looks like I'm on the clock again.
Are you sure?
You want to trade your GM?
Unless like Braden wants to switch with me, but I won't make you do
That's
that.
okay. Yeah, go for it.
He's still got the Eagles. He's fine.
Yeah, we're chilling.
Maybe.
Let me text Joe my selection real quick.
Like I said, the Commanders having an early 2nd round pick and an early 5th round pick now too, right? And that's not bad. Not bad for them. They're not really giving too much capital up for. Yeah.
Ooh. Another interesting player that's fallen. Let's see it.
You ready for it, Joe?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So I think the Bills have kind of been itching for a receiver the past few years. And I think there is a guy available that's still worth taking in the 1st round, and that is Luther Burden. I mentioned it earlier in our SEC preview pod last year. We were talking about how Luther Burden was easily the top receiver in this draft class and could be a top 5 talent in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened this year definitely took a bit of a setback. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but this was a 1,200-yard receiver that barely eclipsed 600 yards last year. If I'm being honest, I think Mizzou had a little bit of trouble figuring out how to get Burden involved, which is crazy because he was awesome the year before. But I'd take the gamble on that athleticism. He's an amazing athlete. You see it at the combine. You see it in his testing. If I were late in the 1st round, I would take a gamble on Luther Burden here. And I think the Bills would be thrilled to do it.
I think they're taking some inspiration from last year, or some solace from last year when they were projected to maybe draft Xavier Worthy, and then they traded back to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs ended up taking Xavier Worthy, and I think they regret that a little bit. So they're going to try to not make the same mistake here.
Yep.
Kansas City's on the clock and already made their selection. This is not somebody they need, but being the 18th ranked overall player, it being near the end of the first round, fourth at his position, running a 4.28 40-yard dash. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to select Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback out of Kentucky. I think he's fallen quite a bit. They don't necessarily need a corner, or an additional corner, I should say. But with the ability of this pick right here, I think it's really hard to pass up on somebody with that amount of speed, that amount of burst, great athleticism. And, I mean, we've seen year in and year out that Kansas City relies on speed on both of their ends of the ball, at wide receiver, at corner, at safety. So a great final pick here for them. And your Super Bowl champion, sorry, Brent, Dilly, 2 rings for Philly.
Let's go. Yeah, the Eagles, get that out of here. He had it ready.
I can't believe you showed up on draft day. On Super Bowl Sunday wearing that.
I had to. I knew there was going to be tons of Eagles fans there. I had to have some cheap semblance in the room.
So I think this could be a trade down spot for the Eagles. I think we could look to trade out of it. But actually, I think I'm looking at 5 guys on my board here that the Eagles would be happy with. So now it's just narrowing down which one I want. I mentioned this guy earlier, so I think I'm gonna go with him, just to get his name out there. So I'm going to send this over to Joe, and we'll talk about it. Some guys that are not going to be the pick that I want to talk about a little bit. Nick Amenwari, I think could be a first half of the first round guy. He slides here for us. Shamar Stewart, also an absolute stud. The Eagles would love him. Donovan Nizareku from Boston College would also be great. And Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, the defensive tackle. So a lot of defensive guys that the Eagles are going to be passing up here. They're instead going to go with Gray Zabel out of NDSU. He's played a lot of tackle there, but I think he's some guy that can slot in as a guard. And that's where we're going to be needing somebody on the offensive line. We have a very solid base. We lost Mekhi Becton after a great year. We traded for Kenyon Green. I'm not sure he's going to be the guy, so I think Gray Zabel can play behind him for a year or two and continue this tradition of Eagles drafting a lineman and hopefully them being elite. That would be very nice.
The Eagles can go defense there. There wasn't a Georgia guy left on the board, so
That's true. All the Georgia guys are gone.
We took Malachi Stark. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the FCS player I was looking at too. I know we hinted at it earlier. But usually teams can be a little hesitant to draft FCS level players. I would not be with Gray Zabel. I'd actually be pissed if the Eagles selected him here. At the Senior Bowl, went up against top tier defensive tackles and just shut him down. He was a huge winner at the Senior Bowl, flew up the draft boards, and rightfully so. So I think he's gonna be good at the next level.
Yeah, and almost 10 years ago at this point, we did draft out of NDSU Carson Wentz. So maybe we saw the guys still down there. Carson Wentz didn't work out the way we wanted him to, but still a special place in our hearts. So why not go back to the well?
Did you know that the Eagles are one of the few teams in the NFL that don't have an MVP?
This is true. If only he stayed healthy.
Carson Wentz would not have won that year. It was always Tom Brady.
All right, whatever you say.
Awesome. Draft day is in less than 48 hours. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out here with us today. Hey, we're all on Eastern Standard Time, so that's pretty cool. Can't say that happened last year. But as always, Brett, thanks for guest joining us. You're welcome anytime you'd like to come and chime in. Ian, thanks for supporting from Texas from afar. But thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. Make sure you got the pizza ready. Put draft day on your TVs because Sonny Weaver Jr. is cooking up something special. And who knows, maybe you'll see Brent on there one day. Maybe. That's all we got from the Sports Outlet Show. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We'll let you get back to your evening. Draft day, less than 48 hours. We'll see you when Bryce Young goes number 1. Take care.
Appreciate you guys having me.